They're the newest thing in town.
We haven't dealt with anything like this before.
And they've taken Texas by storm.
No matter what, man, that's who's running the show.
They're 14,000 strong.
We live up to our name. Nobody tells us what to do.
And they have no fear.
You want to fight me? We can fight.
They're Tongo Blast.
If you ain't blast, you ain't lasting. If you ain't Tongo Blast, you ain't gonna make it.
Houston, Texas. This city was built on oil and has become the country's fourth largest.
Well, it's a money-making city. It's like everybody's trying to make money.
Just 350 miles north of the Mexican border, Houston is a destination for many Latinos looking for a piece of the American dream.
I would say they have a better life here, but they can blend in with everyone else because you have such a melting pot here in Houston.
Nearly 1 million Hispanic residents call H-Town home. But not all of them are law-abiding citizens.
We are saturated with Hispanic gangs here. We see a lot of collusion between these gangs to conduct crime. They put their affiliations aside, to conduct their criminal activity.
Leading the way is a ruthless gang, Tongo Blast.
If we have to kill somebody, we'll kill them. Put it like that.
They're an enormous, aggressive gang, the likes of which the Lone Star State has never seen.
Nobody stands a chance. No Mexican gang can even have 30 minutes of us. There's too many.
Police working the streets find members of Tongo Blast everywhere. The gang started in the state's prisons. It grew in dominance.
We were to walk into a 3,000-bed unit. We'll probably walk out identifying about 700 just on that unit.
Its 14,000 members make Tongo Blast the largest gang inside the Texas Department of Corrections, or TDC.
When you go to prison, it's like the thing to be. It's everything, man. You'll love it because everybody's there for each other.
Ramiro Cortez, AKA Spider, has been in Tongo Blast for 10 years.
We're low-key in prison unless we get rattled. It's like a hornet's nest.
The 28-year-old says Tongo Blast has only one mission. If you ain't blasting, you ain't lasting.
If you stir us up, then we're gonna come for you. That's just the way we are.
In 2000, Spider was sentenced to 8 years for aggravated sexual assault. In Texas, prisons are called units. Spider was assigned to the Garza unit in South Texas. He was immediately approached by a member of the Tri-City Bombers gang.
I had a chance to be a Tri-City bomber, but I didn't feel that.
The gang didn't offer him what Tongo Blast could: freedom.
Tongo's strength is in his mentality. Because gangs are like people that get told what to do, this and this and that, and we don't get told what to do. We do what we want to do.
For many gangs, killing is the only way in, and dying is the only way out. Tongo is different.
We don't play by no prison rules. We don't play by that blood in, blood out.
They choose chaos over order.
You're blasting, you're together, you're a blast, you're kicking it with everybody.
Danny Rangel, aka Bones, joined Tongo because of its lack of structure. He stayed for the protection it provided.
I wanted to have somebody to have my back, someone that I could turn to when I needed help.
Bones seemed destined for prison from the beginning. By 9, he was nabbed for stealing from his school. And at 13, he had already been confined to a boys' home and found himself trying heroin.
I've never done it in my life. And the dude looked at me, he goes, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "Can you hit me? Can you hit me?" "I don't know how yet." "Oh, no problem." He shot me a little something. And that was the greatest thing I ever felt in my life.
Bones was soon addicted. He had several run-ins with the law, including an aggravated assault conviction.
It was against my spouse. I beat her with a baseball bat, and I went to prison for it.
He was sentenced to 5 years on the Daniel unit in Snyder, Texas. While inside, he joined Tongo.
You learn to survive in your environment. And the environment is a dog-eat-dog world, so you adapt to that or you get eaten up.
In Texas, where bigger is always better, Tongo is the largest.
Tongos outnumber your prison gangs probably 4-1. And they know that.
Traditionally dominant prison gangs, like the Texas Syndicate and the Mexican Mafia, are being forced to become allies against Tongo Blast. Tongo's crimes are as diverse as their members.
You name it, we've seen it. Everything from homicides, robberies, sexual assaults, carjackings, auto thefts, home invasions, you name it, they're involved in it.
The TDC labels the largest, most dangerous prison gangs as security threat groups. Members are then placed in what is called administrative segregation, away from the general prison population.
You have to kill someone, you have to have a written constitution, rules and regulations, and you have to show a real propensity for violence.
Tongo Blast currently isn't deemed a security threat group, but the TDC is watching them.
It's become so large that if they ever deem them as a security threat group, you would almost have to build an entire institution just to house them.
Tongo Blast has already shown how it can be ferocious and brutal. This is especially true when it comes to one of their main rivals, the Crips. April 25th, 2000, the Smith unit in La Mesa, Texas. A Tongo member caught a Crip masturbating in front of a female guard in the cafeteria.
That's the eating hall. You don't do that. You don't do that in the chow hall.
A Tongo inmate took offense and grabbed the first weapon he could find, a plastic water pitcher.
Was it when you break them and you got the handle, pitcher's gonna explode. So now there's gonna be shards of points on each side, and that's when they go at it.
The two were eventually separated by guards. But later, they went back at it again.
Black dudes wanted to get crunk, Mexican got crunk with them.
Word quickly spread that Tongo Blast was at war with the Crips. Then all hell broke loose.
Every single dorm on Smith unit started fighting. And then the rec yard.
It was a riot, with more than 300 inmates joining in. Prison officials called in reinforcements.
Helicopters and everything were there, armed guards. They had the officers on the ground, the TDC officers with M16s on them. Get down! I'm talking about that's how bad the riot was. They were shooting real guns in there.
Houston, Texas. The first stop for many seeking the American dream. Yet the city is also cloaked in bloodshed. Thanks to a hardcore Hispanic gang named Tongo Blast. Their mentality is shoot first, ask questions later.
If I had a strap and somebody's busting at me, best believe I'm gonna pull out and cock it and shoot too. I mean, you can only defend yourself, man.
Tongo Blast was born behind the walls of the Texas Department of Corrections in the early 1990s.
We just got tired of taking orders from other people.
Jeffrey Durbin, aka Snapper, was one of the first members of the gang.
Well, I decided, look out for one another. That's what really happened.
It started with about 20 Hispanic inmates. They called themselves Houston, after their hometown. They aligned themselves with a Hispanic gang known for extreme violence, the Texas Syndicate, or TS. This alliance also led to a name change.
Everybody just started calling everybody Houston. All the little Houston started calling themselves, started saying it in Spanish more because Texas Syndicate speaks a lot of Spanish. So that's how the word Houston came about.
But Houston didn't like taking orders from TS. Jorge asked to have his identity concealed.
They run the dope, they run everything. So it's like, in other words, we ain't got no saying so. So in order for us to do something, we gotta go to them. But that's not the way we look at it, you know. The doors are open to everybody here.
Tongo Blast resented being ordered to do the dirty work of the Texas Syndicate.
They were just asking everybody to kill people, hurt people, you know, back them up when they needed backup, and too many homeboys were getting hurt.
Yeah, you try to use all of us as crash dummies.
The Houstons knew they needed to do something.
We all started looking out for one another because we didn't like the simple fact of someone telling you what to do. We didn't want to take orders from nobody else.
That sense of loyalty attracted more recruits, like inmate Edward Half-Breed Baker.
And I heard what they were about. So I was like, if I get down with anybody, that's who it would be.
To Half-Breed, it was all about strength in numbers.
Whenever we're blasting, you're my homeboy. If I need something, I should be able to go to you and get it from you. If you need something, if I got it, it's yours.
By the mid-90s, the gang's numbers had exploded, and new sets began to emerge. They represented cities such as Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin.
These inmates have taken these towns and claimed them. You know, that's what they're representing. That's what they're down for.
The 4 separate prison sets, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, and Houston, became known as the 4 Horsemen. When they stood together, they called themselves Tongo Blast. Some gang members say the word Tongo stands for town, but others say Tongo is an acronym. standing for Together Against Negative Gang Organizations.
Together Against Negative Gang. That sounds like a public service announcement, like they were paid to do that. I don't think so.
Within Tango Blast, Hugh Stone led the way.
When you say Tango Blast, everybody thinks Hugh Stone. Why? Because Hugh Stone's the biggest numbers in there. Most of the time, every prison you go to, Hugh Stone's the deepest.
When you go to the unit, all you have to say is you're Tango Blast. And then they might ask, where are you blasting from? You might say H-Town, you might say D-Town. They'll say, you know what, your homeboys are over there. And it doesn't matter where you come from. You're representing that one, and that's that Tango Blast.
Soon, the traditional prison gangs realized the upstarts were becoming threats.
They were asking other units, what is this Houston? What is this Tango? They were asking for guidance from their leaders. What are we supposed to do with this?
Tango was getting fed up with splitting their take.
You made $1, you owe 10 cents. You had to pay wherever the percentage was, and we weren't having it no more.
Then, in the late 90s, Tango Blast decided enough was enough, and they declared independence from the Texas Syndicate.
TS were getting respect, and we were like, man, we can get our own respect. We don't need them.
TS wasn't about to allow that. They launched an all-out war on Tango Blast.
I'm talking about killings, stabbings, riots. Anytime somebody caught somebody slipping. That happened every day until they finally started segregating Texas Syndicate.
Tango Blast celebrated. They created a new tattoo to mock one of the Syndicate's most prized identifying marks, the Longhorns.
We cracked the horns. It's like saying, F y'all.
Half-Breed proudly displays his disrespect for the TS.
I don't give a what they think about me. I'm against you, man. I'm against what you represent.
Tango Blast became a force. Their sheer numbers drawing new recruits from all over the system.
The advantage is that, you know what, you got somebody to cover your ass. And you got some homeboys that are working in the kitchen, that they can feed you. You got homeboys that are working in the laundry, they can dress you.
Hispanic inmates all across Texas, from San Antonio to El Paso, formed their own Tango chapters. They were ready to band together and fight any enemy they might face. By 2003, Tango Blast was more than 10,000 strong, and the gang began to make its presence known outside prison walls. In Houston, they became a virtual street army and decided to get into the drug business in a big way.
They won't do it in nickel and dimes. The ones we've dealt with have been by the pounds. On the cocaine level, some on kilos, but mainly you're talking ounces of cocaine. They're not sitting there selling you a 20 sack on the corner.
The gang's statewide network of sets allowed members to quickly become traffickers.
They get out, they remain in contact. And this allows them to move drugs, guns, whatever, from one part of the state to the other.
They also soon cut out the middleman.
We don't need nobody. I mean, we got the Port of Houston, we got everything.
There was no leader controlling Tango's street operations, but the gang was widespread.
There's no boundary. Southwest, northwest, northeast, southeast. They're all over the place. They don't have any boundaries within the Houston community.
Tango Blast began distributing marijuana and cocaine imported from Mexico to Houston. To the Mexican drug cartels supplying the drugs, Tango Blast was a valuable asset.
They're getting recognition again because sheer numbers, and of course cartel's going to look for the best client that can move their product.
In Houston, Tango Blast began to use legitimate businesses as cover for their operations.
You got a lot of tangos with tattoo parlors, clubs, you know, they're trying to set up businesses to pull them out as fronts where they could push dope.
In 2006, authorities in Houston seized 20 times more the amount of cocaine than the year before. They believed Tango Blast helped cause the spike. The city was on the verge of becoming as dangerous as the cartel-controlled battlegrounds south of the border.
There are so many of them. I believe thousands more that we don't even know about that are out there, and I think it could transform the landscape.
Houston, Texas. The city's port is among the biggest in the Gulf of Mexico and susceptible to hurricanes that crash into the Gulf shores. The streets here are facing a storm of their own in the form of Tango Blast.
These guys are violent. These are a lot of youngsters that are in here. You know, and the youngsters nowadays don't understand respect.
It's like, look at me, I'm Mr. Badass. Now, guns are everywhere. I mean, it's easy to pick up a gun and shoot somebody. Some of these people don't give a about going to jail.
The gang represents both in prison and on the streets.
I got a white coat with purple drink. I'm from Houston, Houston. We known for pop trunk, candy paint, chopping blades round in Houston, Houston.
Most members are in their 20s.
I think the age has a lot to do with it, and that's probably why they don't seek out the older gangs, but it is a showboat thing.
Tango Blast is decentralized. They have no written constitution, preferring to live by just one rule.
You just keep yourself right. And if you keep yourself right, you won't need rules.
There is also no leader, no rank, and very little structure.
They can do whatever they want to because they don't have a lieutenant or a sergeant or a captain or a chairman that's going to come back and say, you shouldn't have done that, that was wrong.
In Tango Blast, the only criterion to become a member is to have spent time in a state prison. Loco asked to have his identity concealed.
You gotta at least have over 8 months state jail and be fresh for them 8 months.
Recruits are then watched and evaluated by the crew.
They'll put you on a probation for 14 days, see how you carry yourself and investigate, see if you've ever been locked up before, or, you know, what kind of jacket you have.
New members are jumped in with a beating that lasts about a minute.
They'll put 2 people either the same size to, you know, see where your heart's at. They call it a quota check.
Cora is short for corazon, meaning heart.
You can't fold up. You need to remain swinging. You need to remain hidden back. If you fold up, it starts again. You fold up again, you're not in.
The gang also tries to stay hidden on the streets by not flying colors or flags. Instead, they represent by wearing sports gear from their hometowns.
The symbols came around because everybody was repping their cities to distinguish themselves on what part of Tango they were.
Their shirts, hats, and tattoos depict their city skyline, slang terms for their hometown, or simply the local area code.
Got one stopped over here. Tattoo showing wearing a 713 Houston, H-Town, City of Houston skyline.
Many claim the symbols simply represent civic pride.
Tell me about the star and the building. What's all that about?
Nothing much.
Come on, man. Come on, talk to me.
You don't represent? Nah, I just love my city.
Oh, you love your city?
When stopped on the street, they often claim a different kind of membership.
How you doing, man? Come here. What's this mean on here? What's all that mean? What's all that mean?
Oh, that's a car club, sir.
That's a car club?
Yeah.
H-Town, most hated for the ladies. That's a car club.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that some people that are affiliated with a gang use that same logo?
I have no idea, sir.
You didn't know that at all?
No, sir. I put that on it.
Another person out here with the logo, but not claiming to be affiliated with the gang. That's not good. That's what draws attention to them, but they're not claiming it.
They may deny being in a gang, but to police, it's obvious.
Tango Blast, loud and proud, on the head, on the face, on the arms, on the forearms, stickers, decals on the cars.
Their choice in symbols makes it difficult for law enforcement.
It could be argued in court or other places if they have a Houston Astros symbol or a San Antonio Spurs symbol tattooed on them. They could argue that they're a sports fan.
Marketers are feeding off of it. We have a place here in the mall, and that's all he sold was Houston Astros stuff. I mean, in every color you could possibly find.
Yeah, I got a whole wall of hats. They can get t-shirts, they can get their ball cap, their tattoos. They can get everything that has to do with that gang here.
Older gang members and authorities alike are troubled by the popularity Tango Blast is generating among kids on the streets.
The kids that don't know nothing about tango, don't know nothing about Houston, but they see that star is like a pair of Jordans. I'm badass by wearing that.
We have run across kids that are just trying to commit a crime. They want to commit a crime so they can get into the prison system so they can become Houston gang members.
These kids are even trying to prepare for membership by only partially finishing their tattoos.
There are some people that have Houston tattooed on their body. They'll tell us, well, I'm not officially Houston until I get the E on it, so I'm just waiting for that.
Older Tango members are taking it upon themselves to discipline the younger generation about drawing unwanted attention.
They beat them up, put them guns to them, and let them know, get us out your mouth.
Police believe the in-your-face, showboating style of Tango Blast stems from the fact they are so big. The young gang thinks their size makes them unstoppable.
They will put the tattoo on, they'll flash it, they don't care.
The oldest members often carry a unique tat, Roman numerals representing PTB, or Pure Tango Blast.
That emblem right there represents Tango Blast. No matter where you come from, if you got that, you represent Tango.
Tango has a motto they live by.
We ain't blasting, you ain't lasting. I mean, in other words, it's like, if you ain't Tango Blast, you ain't gonna make it.
Some members insist Tango is nothing more than a means of protection for a man serving time. They say they can choose to drop gangbanging altogether when released. but police say few do.
They're coming out of the prison system and hooking back up, and they're becoming more organized.
And they don't seem to be leaving their violent ways behind.
Once you do this for so long, it's really stuck on you. It's really hard just to let it go, I guess.
I will always have love for my homeboys. My Houston is gonna be my family when I get out. That's who I'm gonna blast with when I leave.
That loyalty, combined with Tongo Blast's sheer numbers, makes the gang a dangerous threat, both inside and on the streets.
The level of violence has gone up. These guys are just extremely dangerous.
Tongo Blast is a brash, arrogant gang, 14,000 strong. They're a menace for the Houston PD.
It's a real big problem. I mean, it's everywhere. You see logo, you see cars on the freeway, you see tattoo parlors selling shirts, and everybody's representing H-Town.
Call it screw stone, make y'all leave back when I grab a microphone. We gone in the jag. How you like that? You wanna fight me? Houston is where I'm at. Houston.
While the gang is a force on the streets, their true strength is behind bars. April 25th, 2000. The Smith Unit in La Mesa, Texas. The war between Tongo Blast and the Crips explodes into a riot. For 6 hours, 300 inmates battled it out, including Spider.
We're the one that kicked it off. But everybody backed us up. It was a bad, bad riot. It was all Mexicans against all blacks.
In the melee, several Crips broke into a utility closet and found a pickaxe before going after a Mexican inmate.
They cut him wide open. Whoa. Cut his head wide open with a pickaxe.
The Crips killed the inmate, fueling a rampage. It took 6 hours and 300 officers to regain control. In addition to the killing, 31 inmates were injured.
There was big old piles of blood all over. That was a nasty. It stunk like a, what do you call it, a slaughter yard or whatever, to kill pigs. It stunk like blood and dead meat. It stunk nasty.
Tongo Blast felt they had sent a clear message. They were a force to be reckoned with.
In riots, it's not about winning or losing. It's just about making a statement.
Wild and reckless, Tongo Blast is wreaking havoc in the city of Houston. One violent crime at a time. August 2006. Edward Baker, aka Half-Breed, had been on parole for less than 2 weeks and was celebrating his release at a club. A few hours later, a fight broke out.
It was a fight between a group of Hispanics and a group of black males, because one of them dudes pushed my homeboy.
The fight started over what typically fights start over inside those places. There's an ego confrontation about either how bad you are or what girl that you're trying to go after.
Police say the fight spilled into the parking lot, and then Half-Breed took it to another level.
Y'all want to pop something off? We're going to pop something off. You want to fight me? We could fight.
Edward decides that he's going to end the whole thing. He's got a pistol in his hand. He puts the pistol in the air, boom, fires one shot.
Half-Breed then fired 2 more shots into the crowd. hitting and killing the club's promoter.
He didn't have nothing to do with it. He was working at the club that night.
There's no question that what he did was just a cold-blooded act of murder. Edward's choice was that, he just didn't care. It wasn't that big of a deal to him.
Half-Breed was convicted of murder and sentenced to 40 years.
I would define this crime as an absolutely senseless act of brutal murder.
Tongo Blast have made vicious crimes like these their signature. January 2009. 10 suspected Tongo members are busted for distributing cocaine and marijuana as part of a multi-million-dollar drug operation.
That's multiple kilos of marijuana and multiple kilos of cocaine that they were responsible for, to the tune of $40 million worth over a 1-year period.
A federal and local gang task force seized thousands in assets, including a Bentley and a Maserati. They say it shows their arrogance.
We don't see Texas Syndicate members or Mexican Mafia members driving Maseratis, Lamborghinis. You just don't see that.
Every single arrest with drugs, they've always had a large amount of cash on them, driving a fancy car or two, and always guns.
Tongo Blast, a hardcore Hispanic gang, has taken the state of Texas by surprise.
If somebody told me 10 or 15 years ago that we would have a group this size, grow this rapidly, and be this dangerous, I wouldn't have believed it.
The gang has 14,000 members, and controlling them will be difficult.
I don't see how they're gonna try to stop them. I mean, everywhere you go, there's one of them, here in Texas.
Police worry they could have even more to fear if a true leader emerges.
One person steps up, there could be that possibility of turning Tongo into a whole different organization.
All it takes is one person that's smart, charismatic, and can lead. They could take this group to a whole nother level.
If somebody is big enough to do that, well, then we got problems. Hell will probably break loose.
Yet some argue that a single leader defies the very principles Tongo Blast was founded on.
That's one of the main rules. There is no rules. Nobody tells nobody what to do. So they will never happen.
Members believe it's more likely that the gang's growth will be stopped in prison by the TDC segregating Tongo Blast.
Oh, believe me, they'll make beds for it. they'll shut down a whole prison just for seg of Tongo. And they'll lock all of them up. TDC can't do it.
Spider was released from prison in 2008. He has returned to Houston and is working odd jobs in construction and landscaping. He still claims Tongo Blast and says he will always be down for the gang.
Because it's who I was raised up on. They were the ones that were always there for me, so I'm always gonna be there for them. Everybody respects us because, if you look at it, man, there's Houstons working everywhere. Houston got a hand in it.
Bones has tried hard to leave Tongo behind.
Tongo was made for the penitentiary. It wasn't made for the world.
He traded the gangster life for religion.
I said, you know what? You need to change this around. Don't follow the crowd, change the crowd.
He now supports his wife and 2 young children as a sheet metal worker.
Hopefully I'll leave this world with something. And it won't be that, you know what, Danny was a up, he was a gangbanger, he didn't amount to and he ended up at death row.
Half-Breed is serving 40 years for murder and now considers Tongo Blast his family.
If you ain't blasting, you ain't to me, really. If you ain't blasting, you.
Half-Breed knows he has the numbers on his side.
We're deep. There's a lot of us. But when you jump my homeboy, are you some kind of weapon or something? It's on right there.
They're not afraid of anything. I'm just waiting for the time when they say, you know what, we're gonna declare war on somebody. It may not happen today, tomorrow, next week, next year, but it's coming.
While authorities watch and wait, they know only one certainty. Tongo Blast grows stronger with every passing day.
You're going to see the numbers continue to grow because the thing about gangs is that everybody wants to be on the winning team.
God knows what may be the next level of evolution that we might see.
To gang members, Tongo Blast is an unstoppable force, too big to contain.
I guess when the homeboy started it, they didn't think we were ever going to be this many. But it's there now. Ride with it.
They didn't nip it in the ass when they had the chance because nobody thought that Tongo was going to blow up as much as it did. And now you say, what can you do about it? Just let it run and get the hell out the way.